Hello! Welcome back, guys. I have been so excited to freaking make this video. I can't even express it. You guys know I'm in my reading girl era, and I feel like that's a lot to say, being a mom of two. Generally, I just read on the weekends during nap time or right before bed for like 30 minutes to an hour based off of how fast I can do my nighttime routine. You've never seen me move faster than when I'm getting ready for my nighttime routine and getting ready to grab my book. So, but I'm really excited. I've seen this video done a few different times and I've been dying to make it. So I'll put the questions down below. So if you guys want to, one, make your own video like this, or just like do some reflection on your 2024 reads. I'd also love to hear like if we agree on any of them, or just hear your guys' feedback. Let me know down below too, like if we disagree on some of them, or if you're like, yes, 100%, I totally felt the exact same way. I'd love to know. So let's jump into it. The very first book, or let's start here. I read 60 books in the year of 2024, and I'm really freaking proud of that. My goal for 2025 is 75 books, and we're already starting to make progress, which I'm really excited for. But the first question is the most disappointing book of the year, and you'll notice as I go through these, I actually have a few different options or answers for each question. Not all of them, but for each question, just because it was hard to narrow it down. So most disappointing book of the year, and I actually have three of them. The very first one is The Inmate. I felt like this was so overhyped. I love Frida so much. I love her Housemaid series. I love The Boyfriend. However, this book just was not it for me. I felt like the end of the book was so left field that, throughout the book, I'm having all these ideas and this inspiration. And one, I thought it was either so obvious or it was going to be completely out of left field. And it was so out of left field. And I felt like this book was so hyped that I had such really big high expectations. And I actually read it after I read the Housemaid series and after I read The Boyfriend. And those books were just so good to me that this one just was like, wah, wah, wah. The other one is The First Lie Wins. Again, this book was so overhyped. And to me, the entire thing, I was just waiting. I was like, okay, something's got to give. And I almost DNF'd it so many times. And I was like, no, something's going to happen. And then I finished the book and was like, nothing happened. So I think I gave that one like a 2 stars. And in my rating world, I give every single book a 1 star. Just like you put your name on a test, a spelling bee test, you get a point for putting your name there. So you being a book, you get a 1 star, but this one gave like 2 stars because I finished it at least. But it was just not for me. Third in the fantasy realm was Divine Rivals. I could see how it was some people's favorite book, but again, I just like got very, very minimal fantasy. And then 2, again, I was just reading it and was like, that's it. Like, I don't know. I just felt so disappointed at the end of those series. What was an underdog book of the year? For me, it was Mr. Wrong Number. And if you haven't read this book, like the rom-com girly in me, I'm like, why is no one talking about this freaking book? I loved it so much. Like the banter back and forth, like it was kind of enemies to lover. There was a little bit of spice in there. Perfect amount of spice, truly. Like sometimes the books are way too much and I'm like, whoa. And then sometimes I'm like, let's have something. And this was perfect for me. The banter back and forth, it was just so cute, so funny. I found myself literally laughing out loud at reading this book, and just thoroughly enjoyed it. So I have never heard of this author before. Right off the top of my head, I can't even remember her name, but I'll put some graphics here for you guys. I'm going to read all of hers. Like she has a lifelong fan now, and I'm so excited to jump into her other readings here in 2025. What was a overhyped book? Just physically the ones that I already talked about. Number 1, First Lie Wins, The Inmate, and Divine Rivals. These were all over my book talks and everyone giving them such high ratings, and I literally read them and was like, I don't see it at all. I don't see the hype at all in these books. The next question was a book that surprised you. This one has my heart. This one has my heart for eternity. 1,000 Boy Kisses. I will recommend this book over and over and over and over again. I will read it and read it and read it over and over and over again. I truly went into it not thinking that I would absolutely love it, and it just like stuck with me. It stole my heart. I fell in love with the characters, fell in love with the entire story. I was bawling my eyes out. I was smiling. I was crying. I had every single emotion throughout this book. And so that is the book that surprised me and will hold truly to my heart. Your favorite main characters of the year. This one was hard for me because I have read some serious good rom-coms that were coming to mind, but I'm gonna have to go with The Boys of Toman. You guys will hear me probably for multiple of these answers, but The Boys of Toman literally is one of my all-time favorite book series now, and specifically I'm gonna go with Joey's side, Joey's perspective, what he went through, how he overcame, his strengths, his weaknesses. So if you guys haven't heard or read his, I think his is like the 4th or the 5th book inside the Boys of Toman series. I read it on my Kindle, so I can't think right off the top of my head, but just read the entire series because truly, honestly, all of them are so amazing. I'm so excited for their future books to come out. I think the next ones are about Hugh. I don't know, I'm gonna have to look that one back up, but highly recommend The Boys of Toman. And I'm gonna say probably favorite character, I was also really considering Archer from Archer's Voice. I answered this for another question previously down, but I just really liked him as a character as well, and like all of the obstacles that he had to overcome. So if you haven't read those two, author that you discovered this year, Rebecca Yarros. Okay, I guess that's kind of cheating because I didn't necessarily like find her this year, but I started really, really following her this year. So I read Fourth Wing previously in 2023, but didn't really like realize that was her. I didn't really like put connections with it. Didn't really focus on like the author by any means. I'm not really a big author follower. I'm just like I'm gonna grab this book until Rebecca Yarros. Rebecca Yarros made me an author follower, and if you follow me on Instagram, in Rebecca we trust, because whenever I need a book, whenever I'm like in a book funk, whenever I'm stuck on what to read next, I just look at like, okay, I'm gonna look at Rebecca Yarros books and grab one of hers. I've read so many of hers this year. I've literally loved every single one. I cannot wait for Onyx Storm, and I love that she can do so many different ones. She does like historical fiction, she does fantasy with Fourth Wing, she does like kind of more just romance. Like I feel like she hits all the prefaces that I need, and they just dive straight into me. Like Variation is one of my favorite books. The Things We Leave Unfinished, one of my favorite books. Fourth Wing, one of my favorite books. Like I could literally list all of her books and they're probably all at the top. It didn't work out for you. I didn't know who to say for this. Like I just talked about, I don't really truly follow authors that much. I would say Frida's though. Like I love Frida, but hers were like a hit or miss for me. I either loved them or felt super disappointed in them. So I put Frida, but I still love Frida. Like I'm still gonna read her future books. I'm still gonna, follow those. I think her newest books are the ones that I'm really starting to enjoy, where her older like first books were the ones that like were just not it for me. Yeah. What is the happiest book that you read this year? I didn't necessarily have one for this either. I guess, I loved The Paradise Problem. I'm gonna put that one in there just because it had a good happy ending. I will also say Rebecca Yarros, why can't I think of the title right off the bat? The Things We Left Unfinished, or the things that we left unfinished. Why am I blanking on that? I really like that one too, because a majority of her books don't have a super happy ending, and I felt like these main characters had a happy ending at the end, and I would just felt really like good. Or 1,000 Broken Pieces. That's the second book to 1,000 Boy Kisses. Again, all had good happy endings that I was just like, yes, The characters deserve this. So I wouldn't necessarily say that like the book itself was super happy, but the endings felt like good for me, if that makes sense. The saddest book that you read this year? I read a few sad ones, but probably 1,000 Boy Kisses like ripped out my heart and soul. I'd also say The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros, one of my all-time favorite books of all time. Just soul ripped out, thrown on the ground, crumpled into a million pieces. But I would recommend those two books every single time. Like, if you have not read those books, put them on your TBR, read them right now. Most frustrating book of the year, I'm gonna put Pumpkin Spice Cafe, because I was just annoyed with it. Honestly, I was just so annoyed. One, it was way overhyped. Two, I felt like they completely missed like any type of character building and development. Like, I think the two main characters literally fell in love like right off the bat, and I was like, who are these people? So it just left me frustrated. I'm like, why is this so overhyped? The writing just didn't feel like enough for me. But if they made it any longer, I would have been frustrated as well. So I was just overall frustrated. Like, I didn't love it, didn't hate it by any means. Like, it was just like a book that I, got through, but felt just overhyped and frustrated when I finished it. That, I guess that answers the question. The best book adaptation of the year, honestly, I don't really watch TV. It Ends With Us. I loved that movie, but I didn't read the book this year. I read it like a long time ago. So I don't really have an answer to this one. Let me know if you guys have one, so that way, because I absolutely love reading it and then watching it. However, like, that's how I read Game of Thrones. I read the book and then watched the series, read the book, watched the series, read the book, watched the series. Covers of the year, honestly, I don't really pay too much attention of the book covers because I read so heavily on my Kindle. Like, I kind of just flip right past those and keep going. I loved Powerless, all the vines and things. I was like, ooh, I love my plants and things like that. But honestly, I couldn't even come up with like a specific cover. So I'm gonna go with Throne of Glass series, because those are the ones that I specifically have like in paperback, and have all of them lined up next to each other, and I love the colors of them and like the fantasy theme. Stop thinking of the Boys of Tommen series. I have so many answers for this. The Boys of Tommen series, Variation by Rebecca Yarros, and then The Last Letter, and 1,000 Boy Kisses, and 1,000 Broken Pieces. Specifically 1,000 Broken Pieces. If you haven't read the second one to 1,000 Boy Kisses, you have to. Like, they're very different, but I almost enjoyed that one more. And I just can't stop thinking of it. Like, they go on this trip on working on healing and things like that. It's very like Eat, Pray, Love vibes for me. And like the entire time that I was reading, I was like Googling and looking up like where they were at, what they were experiencing, that type of stuff. And I was telling my husband, we have to go on this trip. I have to experience these things that like they went through. And I just felt so interesting to me. So those are the ones that I literally can't stop thinking about. An unpopular book that you loved. Honestly, I'm gonna put it right here. I'm gonna say it was a Christmas one, which I didn't read very, very many Christmas books, but this one was like, I don't know, it just really stuck out to me, and I felt like it wasn't very overhyped or anything along those lines. Like, I saw a few people like rate it 3s and 3.5s, but I loved it. I loved it so much. So I'm gonna go with that one. Book that you thought you'd love, but you didn't. Divine Rivals. I was so excited to like jump into a good fantasy series, and this one was just, and the ratings and the reviews, and I just can't get over how defeated I was after that one. Let's see. The book with the most unique concept that you read this year was Archer's Voice. I loved this book, and I thought it was so unique because the main character, if you haven't read Archer's Voice, the main character ultimately can't speak, but he does fall in love, and it's like about the obstacles that he overcomes, kind of like the town that he lives in. He's picked on a lot. He's taken advantage of a lot. And it pulled at my heartstrings. But I thought his character was so unique, and just how he was described by the author, like, this book was a 5-star for me. Like, you guys need to read it because Archer is just so good. His story was so good, and him as a character was so good. Reread. Oh my gosh, all the ones that I've already talked about. The Last Letter, 1,000 Boy Kisses, 1,000 Broken Pieces, Variation, any of Rebecca Yarros. We love Rebecca Yarros. I could go on and on with those. Archer's Voice. Yeah, those are the ones. Those are the ones that are coming to mind without even having to look. Okay, goal reflection. So like I talked about, I read 60 books. Some of those were self-development books, which I've been in a crazy funk with. Like, have been loving them, hating them, loving them, hating them. I'm currently reading one right now, which I do enjoy, but sometimes I felt like the like self-development was ultimately like doing the opposite. It was kind of just making me feel crappy about myself and was making me not want to do any of that. So we're trying those out again. And then a reading goal for 2025, I want to read the Zodiac Academy series, and it is so freaking intimidating. I don't even know where to start. And that's intimidating coming from someone who read the Throne of Glass series this year. Like, it's more intimidating than that series. I think there's 15 books or 20 books with like offset series, and you can read them in different orders, and it's just so intimidating, but it is a goal of mine. So cross your fingers, pray for me. And if anyone has any tips or tricks about getting through Zodiac Academy, let me got to this year. I've got a to be read list that's 1.5 miles long. Are you kidding me? And I just keep adding more and more and more to it, and I feel like I don't check any of them off. Check my Fable, because I can't even think of any of them. What will you prioritize in 2025? The Zodiac Academy. I'm going to get through that series. I know it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know your guys' answers down below. I'd love to hear. We do have a Bookstagram account now, as well as just following on my Instagram account, but let's make sure that we all read some of the same books, and so that way we can chat about them. And I will see you guys next time.